The important thing to remember here is that the investment community is now even more excited, more engaged about allocating to digital currency because Facebook's Libra initiative is bringing it so much more into the spotlight. For the first time, we have real meaningful dialogue going on with policymakers and regulators. And the pragmatic approach that Facebook's taking to really try and figure out the best way to bring this through in a compliant manner is really the way that businesses like Grayscale have been operating since day one. And that's what's attracting investors to us.
Lawmakers don't think that this Facebook rollout is working or that they're approaching it properly.
Well, if you look back at, Secretary Mnuchin's comments the other day, when I know he's going to be on later this morning, he was really hinting about AML, KYC, money service business practices.
AML being
anti-money laundering. KYC, know your customer. Sure. And, those are the types of ways that companies in the space have and continue to operate.
Okay, can you help us with this, though. Libra, I understand, actually, how you can protect against things like AML and know your customer. Bitcoin and some of the other cryptocurrencies, less so.
So with Bitcoin, there's fantastic analytical software, companies like Chainalysis that we've invested in, that look at the provenance of the coins, the source of funds, any addresses that they've ever been associated with.
Right, but that's like a scientific way to look back at it after the fact. It's not a way. There's nobody you just call and say, hey, is the money moving in the wrong direction, right?
It's important to remember.
Where Libra, they'll be able to do that.
But it's important to remember with Bitcoin that it is a pseudonymous activity, right? That you have a wallet address, and yes, there is some level of anonymity that folks can have while they maintain, digital currency balances. But at the end of the day, the type of oversight that the blockchain provides, this is something that policymakers, regulators, the FBI, et cetera, these are folks that have really been excited by the technology because as opposed to cash, they can actually trace transactions.
Is that going to happen anytime soon? I mean, I just hear about every break-in that's ever happened, every ransom is all asked for in Bitcoin because they think it's more anonymous. Are they wrong that this is eventually going to be the thing that tracks them down and catches them?
They could not be more wrong. Using Bitcoin for anything nefarious is probably the worst thing you might think about using if you don't want to get caught doing it.
Can I take the other side of that? Because I've talked to members of the FBI and others. The amount of money that you can transfer in bulk and with speed is completely different than cash. Lots of people who love Bitcoin often say, oh, well, cash is so much more anonymous. Sure, but you have to carry around briefcases of it to get it anywhere. Bitcoin, I can send it across the world without anybody knowing what's going on. And yes, there are people who can, after the fact, maybe figure it out. But it's a very different thing. And so I think the question that investors are trying to figure out right now in the institutional world around Bitcoin is they're watching these hearings and they're saying to themselves, okay, if they could regulate Libra, potentially, even though it's a very different thing from Bitcoin, do they ultimately turn their attention to a Bitcoin when and if it ever becomes stable and, as we've talked about, reaches some kind of escape velocity where it could become the norm?
Institutions are coming in droves, right? Every day, the press is asking where are the institutions and when are the institutions showing up in the digital currency asset class. At Grayscale, they've been here for years, and they're continuing to come in droves. This past quarter, we raised about $85 million in new capital.
I hear you. I'm asking a different question. I'm asking you're watching these hearings, and you're looking at these hearings as a positive or a negative?
Absolutely. This is a moment of validation for the digital currency asset class. The fact that this conversation is coming center stage is causing more investors to think about allocating to digital currency.